he was born screaming. Not into light, but into shadow. Not into welcome, but into prophecy. Konrad Curze entered the world as a wound, tearing through the veil between what is and what is feared. The others fell to distant worlds in fire and silence. He fell to Nostramo, and the world screamed back. His first breath was taken beneath a sky with no stars. The black canopy of Nostramo's polluted heavens hung over him like the lid of a coffin, and from the moment he was found, or rather, from the moment he found himself, he was alone. No family, no cradle, no warmth, only visions. He did not dream like a child. He foresaw. Even then, in infancy, he saw the end of things. He saw blood where there was none. He screamed at phantoms only he could see, not hallucinations, but futures. Every blink brought him to another death. Every breath stank of the rot yet to come. He was not touched by madness. He was drenched in it. The madness of a future too vivid to deny. When he walked the alleys of Nostramo's heart, he did so in silence. That silence did not last long. He became something more than a child, faster than he should have. Rage gave him strength. Hunger gave him discipline. And the sins of Nostramo gave him purpose. His justice was not law. It was inevitability. He did not learn morality. He became it, absolute, terminal, uncompromising. He did not ask why a man robbed another, why a woman sold poison to her kin, why a gang ruled a city block. He asked only, what must be done? And then he did it. They called him a ghost, a reaper, a phantom. They whispered of the night haunter. But he was not hiding. He was not wearing a mask. He was becoming. I watched him. Even before I took him into the light of the Imperium, I watched. Through the warp's haze, through the skeins of possibility, I saw him rise. A city in flames, criminals strung from spires, judges trembling before the judged. He was the executioner of a dead world, and yet he gave it life. For a time, Nostramo prospered. The crime ended. The factories sang. The streets emptied of blood. Because blood had been paid. Terror brought peace. Fear brought unity. And in their silence I heard my son. He was not wrong. That truth lingers even now like smoke on the air of memory. Konrad Curze was never wrong. Only unbearable. What he saw, others refused to accept. But I did not refuse. I did not reach for him to silence him. I reached to use him. He did not fall into my embrace like a lost child. He came to me already knowing who I was, and knowing that I had let him become what he was. And yes, I did. He was not a mistake, he was a necessity. Where others would balk at the Imperium's cost, Curze understood the price. Where others preached the nobility of conquest, he counted the corpses that paved the way. Where others carved glory from obedience, he saw the rotting foundation beneath the golden skyline. He did not smile. He did not kneel. He recognized me. And in that moment, for the first time among all my sons, I was not a father. I was a fact. I was the answer to a question that had haunted him since birth. He said nothing, but he knew. I did not comfort him. I could not lie to him. There are things I never said. To Robute, I spoke of law. To Horus, of trust. To Lorgar, of truth. But to Konrad, I said almost nothing. Because there was nothing he wanted from me except what I had already given him. Silence. I was the one thing in his life that had not screamed. And that silence became the weight he bore. Do you understand what it means when a soul is given no illusions, only truth? To be known in all your cruelty, in all your nightmares, and met not with denial, not with love, but with acceptance. I did not shatter him. I merely left him whole in a world where wholeness was madness. Others called him broken. Number he was complete. And that was the horror of it. Konrad Curze was never a monster. He was a mirror. And mankind hated what it saw. The Imperium embraced Sanguinius because he was beautiful. They feared Mortarion because he was ugly. But they hated Konrad Curze because he was accurate. He governed with fear because he knew that was all they would obey. He killed without mercy because mercy would be wasted. He judged with no appeal because appeals were lies dressed in ceremony. He did not fail to lead. He simply refused to pretend. He understood that the Imperium was not a promise. It was a cage. And in that cage, he became the warden, the executioner, the truth. When I gave him command, I gave him no counsel. I needed no oath from him. For all my sons I had to instruct, except him. He already knew what was expected, not because I told him, but because he had already seen how it would end. His legion followed him not out of loyalty, but out of fear. Yet they followed. And the stars trembled when they descended. They say the Night Lords were brutal. Yes, they were. But they were also honest. They did not speak of liberation. They did not sing of hope. They brought peace, the kind carved into stone by fire. And still, in all of that, he remained loyal. They forget that. They remember the terror, the madness, the visions, but they forget that he never betrayed me. He obeyed, even as he hated. He acted, even as he foresaw his own end. He fulfilled what was needed, though he despised what it made him. And the burden grew. With every war won, he became less man, more echo. With every purge, his voice grew quieter. With every night, his visions sharpened. They were not delusions, they were maps, and every line led to ruin. He saw the heresy before it had a name. He saw the blood before it was spilled. He saw terror burning, not in imagination, but in memory. He foresaw everything, and knew no one would listen. That is what broke him, not failure, not guilt, isolation. To scream the truth into a world of deaf kings. To live surrounded by brothers who called him mad while becoming the very monsters he warned them they would be. To watch them fall, not in surprise, but in confirmation. He did not become the night haunter. He was named by the world that refused to see him. And as he stood at the height of his arc, victorious, feared, unquestioned, he was already falling. Not into heresy, but into inevitability. They called him the Night Haunter, not as jest, not in fear, in resignation, because that name did not disguise him. It revealed him. It was not invention. It was acknowledgement. What others mistook for a mask, he wore as a scar. Where the lion walked in shadow to conceal, Curze walked in shadow to illuminate. Where Guilliman built in light, Curze carved in blood. Where Russ obeyed, Konrad understood. He understood what they could not. That fear is not the enemy of order. It is its womb. That civilization is not upheld by faith or loyalty or even honor, but by the certainty of consequence. The Night Lords did not conquer. They dismantled illusion. They shattered the hope that mercy would save anyone. To the Imperium, that was horror. To Curze, it was clarity. He burned the heretic, the traitor, the deviant, but also the governor who turned a blind eye, the general who hesitated, the priest who lied to comfort. His justice spared no hypocrisy, even when it wore the aquila. He did not relish it. He did not smile as Fulgrim did in ecstasy or Angron in rage. He was not possessed by violence. He was condemned to it because he alone could see the blade that hung above every soul. And he became it. I did not stop him, because he was necessary. We were not building a paradise, we were binding a nightmare to a throne of bones, and to bind such a thing I required sons who could do what hope would never permit. Curze never forgot what the Imperium truly was. Not a dream, a solution, an ugly, brutal answer to a species that had devoured its own future 10,000 times over. Where others sang of unity, Curze dealt in truth. And truth is a terrible weapon. But weapons are not meant to be understood. They are meant to be used. So I let him, and the stars learned to fear again. He brought worlds to heal, not with speeches, but with silence, with crucified kings and burning cities, with justice delivered in the dark. He did not build. He ended resistance, and in ending resistance he gave us time to construct, time to scheme, time to dream, as the architects of the Imperium drafted their visions atop the corpses his legion made. He was not thanked, he was not honored, but he was relied upon. He became the shadow behind the throne, the warning carved into every wall. Obey, or the Night Lords will come. But no soul carries that burden without consequence, to be nothing but a threat, to be justice without reprieve, to be right and hated for it. They mocked him, his brothers, my sons. They called him unhinged, unstable, monstrous, because they could not comprehend what it meant to see the future and be believed by no one, because they refused to believe. Curze did not fall to chaos. He fell to certainty. The heresy did not surprise him. It confirmed every vision he had screamed into silence. He foresaw Horus long before Horus questioned me. He foresaw Prospero's burning before Russ was loosed. He foresaw Kalth, Istvan, the Siege of Terror, before their names were stained with fire. And he told no one. He had once warned me, and I had given him nothing. He had once tried to reach his brothers, and they had given him scorn. He was never offered brotherhood, only surveillance. He did not love, he calculated, he did not bond, he assessed, he trusted no one because he knew what they would become. And still, he never turned from me. He killed, he punished, he fled. But he never raised a blade against me. He could have. He knew when. He knew how. He foresaw the precise moment when the bond between father and sons would collapse into betrayal. But he did not strike, because it was never about me. It was about truth. And when truth becomes unbearable, it is the bearer who breaks first. The Inquisition records a moment, a confrontation, where Curze, accused, surrounded, unrepentant, spoke only a single phrase. They say no answer was given, because to answer would have been to confess that the Imperium required him, that behind every monument of peace stood a figure like Curze, unseen, unthanked, but essential. It is easy to celebrate Sanguinius, easy to pity Magnus, easy to hate Lorgar. But Curze offers no such ease. He is discomfort made manifest. He did not lie. He was not corrupt. He did not compromise. He saw mankind not as it dreams to be, but as it is. There is no comfort in his legacy, only the echo of what was necessary. The Night Lords shattered, but they did not vanish. They did not become traitors. They became witnesses, murderers, pirates, scavengers. Yes, but also proof. Proof that I made a son who saw too clearly, and then left him alone with that knowledge. I did not stop him, not because I could not, because I chose not to. I waited to see if a man who foresaw the future would try to alter it or accept it. I hoped, briefly, irrationally, that his visions might be broken, that what we called madness was simply illness. But fate is not gentle with those who hope, and Konrad Curze was never meant for healing. He was a blade, and a blade is not soothed. It is drawn, it is used, and eventually it is discarded. I never spoke that to him, but he understood, and that understanding, not any enemy, is what hollowed him. He began to speak less. His legion obeyed, but no longer comprehended. He withdrew, not in distance, but in meaning. He began to write, to carve, to encode, not in madness, but in preparation. Even as the Imperium recoiled, even as the traitors whispered kinship, Curze stood in neither camp. Because he had seen how it would end, he would not be judged, he would not be redeemed, he would be proven. And so he fled, not in fear, but in resolution, not to hide, but to await. And that wait ended not in battle, not in revelation, but in a quiet chamber on a dead world where a single assassin found him. And he let them. Because he was ready. Because he had seen it. And he did not flinch. His death was not defiance, it was confirmation. He did not cry out, he did not resist. He looked upon the blade and welcomed it. Not because he wished to die, but because he'd lived the end 1,000 times. And in that moment, he did not offer an oath. He offered only a truth. His final words were not a plea, nor a curse. Only this: I told you so. A statement without defiance, not an accusation, a confirmation. There is a certain stillness in finality, and Konrad Curze reached it before the blade did. The moment of his death was not the climax of his story, it was its punctuation. His last act was not resistance, but arrangement. He prepared the place, he lit the chamber, he sat, and he waited. Not for redemption, not for forgiveness. He waited for the prophecy to complete itself. The assassin was not a surprise. He was expected, welcomed, irrelevant. They speak as though he was executed, as though justice was served upon him. They misunderstand the sequence of events. He had already passed judgment on himself, on the Imperium, on all of it. The blade was simply the final mark. He was not slain. He allowed the ending. This is not nobility. This is not martyrdom. This is clarity. There are those who ask why I did not intervene, why I did not recall him, why I did not stop the act before it was done. Because it was already done. The moment he saw the future, he accepted its shape. The end was not the act of dying. It was the slow extinguishing of relevance. Konrad Curze had played his role. He had been what he was required to be, a son made to warn, a blade forged to strike fear, a consequence, not a cause. And when a tool has served its purpose, you do not mourn it. You set it down. This is not cruelty. It is order. I did not create him to be loved, nor did he seek it. He was not deprived, he was not exiled. He was used, as all things must be, according to their nature. He was given purpose, and he fulfilled it. He warned, he punished. He governed through fear, because that is all his people would obey. He did not ask for another way. He did not believe one existed. His vision was never clouded by idealism. His clarity made him effective. His clarity made him disposable. That is not tragedy. That is function. When he saw the betrayal that would come, he did not scream. He did not rally. He recorded, not to prevent, but to document. He was not trying to change the future. He was describing it. And once described, it merely had to unfold. This is the difference between him and his brothers. The others tried to reshape destiny. Curze saw it as immovable. He was not broken. He was exact. I do not celebrate his death, nor do I lament it. It was a point of transition, the end of one phase, the silence of a fulfilled prophecy. The galaxy did not change because of his death. It continued precisely as he foresaw. He was not betrayed, he was not avenged, he was concluded. You must understand, I do not regret Konrad Curze. I do not question what was made, nor do I second-guess what was permitted. He was a reflection of truth, a manifestation of consequence. A son cast into the dark not because I lacked the will to save him, but because he was designed for that very dark. Nostramo did not corrupt him. It clarified him. He was not turned, he was not deceived. He saw with too much sharpness. His flaw was not madness, it was inevitability. There are no statues of him in imperial palaces, no hymns, no declarations, and yet his legacy survives. In the silence of obedience, in the hidden terror behind every decree, in the quiet, unspoken understanding that fear keeps the order when faith fails. He endures not in memory, but in practice. Every governor who rules with an iron hand, every officer who chooses discipline over leniency, every world kept in line by fear of punishment more than hope of reward. They continue his doctrine whether they know his name or not. That is legacy, uncelebrated, unclaimed, unavoidable. Did he believe I loved him? Irrelevant. He never asked. He never needed it. Approval was not his goal. He had no illusions. He was not looking for a father. He had already judged me, and he did not cry out, because there was nothing to say. We understood each other, and that is all there ever was. When his eyes closed for the final time, he was not afraid. He was not angry. He was finished. The purpose he embodied had been spent. The future he predicted had arrived. The justice he enforced had become normalized. There was nothing left for him in the galaxy he had warned into being, not peace, not vindication, only silence. And so he embraced it. Konrad Curze was not loved, he was not followed, he was not mourned, he was used, and he was correct. That is enough. Let history pretend he was mad. Let the poets write him as monster or martyr. It changes nothing. He did not serve symbols. He served reality. He gave shape to consequence. He reminded the Imperium what it cost to survive. And when that reminder had been delivered, he stepped aside, without ceremony, without plea. Just a sentence. I told you so. And that is the end. Not of him, but of what he was made for. No afterlife, no elevation, no crown. Only the echo of a fulfilled function. A prophecy realized. A blade returned to the sheath. The Imperium remembers its saints. It celebrates its martyrs, but it survives on the backs of its weapons. And Konrad Curze was among the sharpest I ever forged. That is all he was, and all he needed to be.